Hello, my name is Annie Przypyszny, and my senior thesis is comprised of a collection of poems entitled MISCELLANY. This photo was taken by a friend on April 23, 2016, a little over 2 weeks before I was sent to an acute inpatient adolescent psychiatric hospital. Evidently, this was a very low time in my life. Still, when this picture was taken, I was with two close friends, laughing under the stars. If asked how I felt, I might have been confused. In that moment, I felt incredibly happy, and at the same time, I felt like life wasn't worth living anymore. It is in Miscellany that I explore just how two such competing feelings can coexist. To frame my exploration, I use two main sources: the teachings of dialectical behavioral therapy, developed by Marcia M. Linehan, as well as the work of long 18th century poetess Anne Finch, Countess of Winchelsea. The title of my collection is in fact a reference to Finch's manuscript, Miscellany Poems on Several Occasions. DBT provides me with the framework of dialectics, or the both-and. This concept asserts that opposites can coexist. One can say, I'm happy and I'm sad. I'm healing and I'm suffering, rather than throwing in those ors and buts. This allows these two competing feelings to be equally true, equally present, and equally valid. This concept permeates both my life and my poetry, which I find are both, as Linehan states, a synthesis of opposites. So, in that case, why Anne Finch? What does this poetess from 300 years ago have to do with dialectics, a more modern therapeutic idea? Well, Finch suffered from melancholia all her life and wrote about it in many of her more famous poems, including her most famous, The Spleen. When I first began reading her work, I found it surprisingly steeped in dialectics. Finch's work is vast and varied and contains not just suffering, but friendship, love, wit, and spiritual devotion, and it feels as if all of these are simultaneous feelings for her. Finch's life was continuously affected by melancholy, but one can't reduce her to it. I found immense solidarity in her biography and writing, and aim for part of this collection to be a sort of conversation with her. Now to dive into the different formal aspects of the collection. I'm going to read the first poem in Miscellany, entitled The Introduction, as I believe it captures all three of the most prominent formal elements I use throughout the thesis. The Introduction. My muse has no laurels or lyre. She doesn't live by the Hippocrene. She lives in a hole in the ground that is not a grave, but can't she see the resemblance? When she sleeps, the pill-bugs crawl out of the soil and outline her body. When she sleeps, she is troubled by dreams that are too bright and too wide, and she makes me transcribe them every morning. For example, last night she dreamt she killed me with a blade of sunlight. I told her I know, it was my dream too. I've tried to rid myself of her. I've sent her to convents, but they send her right back, citing sacrilege, blasphemy, and bad table manners. I've had her committed, but she keeps being discharged. She can recite the oaths of sanity so well. Once I took her to a corn maze, dared her to come out the other side. As she weaved her way through, I blocked her in, entrance and exit, with huge slabs of stone, rendering her a captive of the fall. I thought she'd perish there, but by the end of the season, I found her knocking at my window, her face pale as a lily, eyes loony as moons. She kept mumbling to herself about how beautiful the corn was, how it was sleek and gold as Hera's hair. What a joke, going on about Hera's hair. So the introduction is, in a way, an homage to Finch's own poem of the same title, as in both her poem and mine, there is an unease between the speaker and her creative muse. This kind of subtle emulation is used throughout my collection, where I pay tribute to Finch by playing with the forms and genres she often used, especially the ones popular in her time. She was a huge proponent of the fables, so I play around with that genre a lot. Some of the poems that I include also speak directly to and about Finch, emphasizing again that idea of a conversation. The second main formal element of Miscellany is variety and variability of form. While the wide array of forms I employ might seem a bit chaotic at first glance, they are meant to capture that constant state of change mentioned by Linehan. Along with more typical 18th century genres and forms, I use others such as the prose poem and the pantoum. Many of these forms are also versatile in how they relate to their subject matter. They often aim to either compliment the subject, confront the subject, or sometimes both. The last main formal element is occasional irreverence in tone. Marcia Linehan considers irreverence to be a valuable aspect of the therapeutic process, and defines it as saying the unexpected. Finch's poems and their wit often carry this tone of irreverence, adding touches of wry humor to otherwise somber topics. I aim, in many of my own poems, to capture this occasional irreverence, to both embody the both and, i.e., we can take a topic seriously and take it not seriously, and also as a way to criticize certain topics, such as diagnostic categorization and the way families who have lost a child to suicide are expected to mourn. I will end here with the last poem of the collection, The Same Perfume, which I also hope embodies all that I'm trying to achieve. The Same Perfume, to Anne Finch, Countess of Winchelsea. I'll never know your thoughts, so they might as well be mine. Bright, too bright, then blank as an eggshell. Our demeanor, too coherent for anyone to pity us. We look like we could manage a task. We look real and entire. You never killed yourself. I admire that. And I'm impressed that your husband stayed. Good men don't normally love complicated women. Was he good to you? Very. He transcribed your poems, what with your strange, inscrutable penmanship. Strange as mine, which a boy I liked once told me resembled an optical illusion. He examined it from every angle before putting it down. You and I gifted the same perfume, which smells like deep water. We didn't ask for it, and we hate the scent, but it was a gift, and we're so polite. The girls I met in the hospital wore a similar perfume. Some of them threatened to kill themselves over men. I don't know where they are. Plunging my hands in deep water, I search. If anything, I like to think that if 16-year-old Annie could have read these poems, she'd find that everything she felt makes a lot more sense, that our feelings and our lives are allowed to be more complex than we expect them to be.